Hi, everybody. My name is Darlene Rondo, and I'm the Vice President, Best Practices for Leonardo's Online Merchandising Group, and I'll be your host for today's event. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar where we're going to discuss how to reach consumers using smartphones and tablets during their hotel shopping journey from two perspectives. First, from Adam Anderson from Expedia, who'll give us an industry strategic view on the subject, and then we'll hear from Shannon Praddock, who will share some very specific and valuable guidance from a property perspective. So a few housekeeping items before we begin. First, we'll be recording the webinar today, and at the conclusion of today's session, we'll be sending you a thank you for joining us email with a link to that recording, which you can share or listen to at your leisure. Additionally, you'll have a questions dialog box in your GoToMeeting panel. I see some of you have already found it. And as we move through our discussion today, please feel free to send in your questions and we'll address them throughout the webinar as well as at the end of the presentation. We're going to be tweeting during today's discussion, so please feel free to join in the conversation at #LeonardoMobile. And before we continue, what I'd like to do is actually launch a poll. And this poll helps us understand what everybody in the audience is thinking regarding our topic today. So the question I want to ask everybody is, what's your biggest challenge with optimizing your website for mobile and tablet? And you see three different answers on your screen. So just click the radio button that is associated with your answer. So the first answer is too expensive. Second choice is lack of staff or resources. Third answer is I don't know where to start. And lastly, I just don't consider it an important part of my marketing. So we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to weigh in with all these answers. And right now it's looking like lack of staff and resources and don't know where to start are neck and neck. So we'll give everyone a few more minutes. And I guess I'm not really surprised about lack of resources, because we hear that a lot from folks. You know, there's just so many things that hoteliers have to do in the day in the life, and, you know, devoting time to mobile strategies is always a hard thing to do. So at this point, we have the majority of folks who are saying that they have a lack of staff and resources, followed closely by don't know where to start. So I'm going to close this poll. Thank you for weighing in. We really appreciate it. And I'd like to introduce our special guest. First, I'd like to welcome Adam Anderson. Adam has earned his title as a marketing leader through 13 years of experience with delivering results. He's held high-ranking positions in the past, including, but not limited to, PR manager at Dolby, senior PR manager and senior product manager at Microsoft, and director of public relations and director of global communications at Expedia. He currently serves as director of industry relations at Expedia. Welcome, Adam. Good to have you with us today.
Thanks, Darlene, and thanks everybody for allowing me to speak to y'all.
And now, sorry, Adam, before we continue, I'd just like to introduce Shannon. Shannon has had 14 years of experience in the marketing and public relations industry, where she's excelled at project management, strategy, digital communications, storytelling, experiential marketing, and blogger relationship management. She also possesses extensive social media skills and experience in analytics and mobile marketing. Shannon Praddock is currently the CEO at the Scene Marketing Group, where she's called home for almost 9 years. Good to have you here with us today, Shannon. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
And before we move on to Adam, I just want to share some background with you, which will serve, I think, as a nice kickoff to our discussion. And this surrounds just how important a mobile strategy is as part of your overall marketing plan. According to studies by Millennial Media and ComScore, the majority of mobile users, in fact 61% of smartphone and 70% of tablet users, research or book travel when they're at home. And when it comes to travel research, hotels rank number one as the top category with 83% of smartphone and 74% of tablet users browsing for places to stay via their mobile devices. And lastly, of the people using smartphones to research their hotel options, 2/3 of them use these devices to actually make their reservations. So at this point, I am going to segue to Adam, who is going to discuss the topic from a marketplace perspective. And Adam, I am going to give you the keyboard and mouse, and you have control of the board.
Great. Thanks, Darlene. Interesting feedback on those poll results, everybody. You know, I'm going to address both of those topics, both really where you start and also how you might leverage other resources so that you can get a presence with, you know, limited investment on your part. So, really good feedback to get at the start of this. So, as we start to dig into the presentation here, and Darlene, I'm having a hard time.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, a little bit of a lag.
Yeah, there's a
Great.
little bit of a latency. So.
Okay, we're all set now. I wanted to point out, you want to use this slide to point out that many of us still talk about mobile as an emerging channel, and really that's probably doing more harm than good because it's here now. According to Business Insider, in 2014, more people globally will access the internet via smartphone than a personal computer. So it's only logical to assume more and more people will be accessing the internet via the phones, more and more will be shopping and purchasing travel from that device. So what I have here on the slide is that by the end of 2015, Focusrite predicts that the mobile share of online business travel will be almost 30%. So that is driving a lot of opportunity for you guys. And so it's definitely a channel that you need to be paying attention to, definitely something that you need to be focused on, and it's great that you guys are here to learn a little bit more about it. It's also important to note that consumers from emerging countries obtain internet access for the first time as they're leapfrogging the PC in favor of smartphones and tablets. In the case of Asia, there's a form factor that's very popular called phablets, which is a combination of smartphone and tablet. These are primary devices for internet access. So it's you know, especially if you want international travelers, mobile investment is really important. So over the course of the past 5 years, we've seen a significant shift in the way customers access the internet globally. So in 2009, the personal personal computer gave way to smartphones and other devices such as tablets, smart TVs, and wearables in 2013. So as we talk about mobile today, which is definitely mainstream, we are, as a technology company and use a hotelier, and really need to think about what consumers will be using in the future for booking your hotel. So this slide depicts multiple screens today, and we're also talking about some of the future form factors as well, including smartwatches, Google Glass, and Smart TV. So it's critical.
Sorry, Adam, Darlene here. Just an interesting note I read this morning in some research from Pew. They said that tablet ownership users have longer attention spans, and that, and this I found very interesting, that the growth of tablets has actually already dwarfed the growth of PCs, where it's at in its life cycle. So it's interesting, and I think important for hoteliers to understand this multi-screen experience that you're going to dive into here.
Yeah, absolutely. And really the way you approach this multi-screen experience has got to change too. You know, customers really expect a great experience across all devices, regardless of the type or size of device that they're using. So if the experience is poor, they'll become frustrated and they'll go elsewhere. So it's really easy for them to find a better experience. So rather than building vertically for each form factor, as many companies still do today, and what we all used to do in the past, meaning you have like a mobile team who focuses just in developing directly for mobile, and a PC team who does the mainstream PC experience. You really need to offer a scalable solution for all the different form factors that are out there. So at Expedia, for example, we're transforming from HTML5 to a live data exchange, which is the technology required to enable the brand to present a seamless experience to the customer regardless of the device size or type. That data exchange also enables the flexibility needed to present an excellent experience on devices today, but also future devices like wearables, Google Glass, and smart TVs. And that seamless experience means better conversion and more bookings for us and our partners.
And so, Adam, here's a question from Stephen in the audience. Can you explain what you mean by seamless?
Yeah, sure. So seamless, really, there's a couple different ways for us to look at that. One is that the experience is familiar. So if someone is on a phone and then they go to a PC, that it's a familiar experience that they were just browsing and looking at their phone, but then also when they get on the PC, that it's comfortable and that they can use the same sort of navigational tactics and some framework to get where they want to go. It also means that as we do this and people use their sign-in credentials to be logged in multiple form factors, we can actually pick up where we left off on multiple devices. So if you were to start a shopping experience on the phone, and then you pick and you're signed in on the phone and you're signed in on your PC, next time you go on your PC, you may see some results, some tracking of your previous behavior that will help you pick up where you left off.
Yeah, and I think a good analogy for that is if I'm watching Netflix on my TV and then, I'm getting sleepy and I want to watch the end of House of Cards, while I'm laying in bed, I can disconnect from the TV there and pick up Netflix on my tablet and continue watching the show where I left off. Same kind of premise, right?
It's exactly right. And, we're experimenting with a lot of different ways that's relevant, but that philosophy and that approach is exactly what we're shooting for. And that's a great segue to this slide too, because customers visiting all these different form factors and all different sites before they get to the booking experience. So, if somebody's out there dreaming about their vacation to Hawaii on their phone while they're, waiting in the doctor's office, wouldn't it be nice for in your hotels in their consideration set, wouldn't it be nice for next time they log into Expedia on their PC that your hotel is still available and being surfaced to them? So, really the participation in the mobile channel is not just about bookings, but it's also about discovery, research, and exposure for your hotel. So you can see all the squiggly lines here. Customers are all over multiple devices and multiple places online when they're getting inspired, researching, shopping, booking, and more. So you want to be present in all these places and stages. You're not eliminated from the consideration set at the outset. In other words, if they can't find you online when they're fooling around and getting inspired or even farther down the shopping path and looking for a hotel, you might miss that customer.
And so, I think the other thing that's important to note, and we just think of it in our lives, right? We live our lives multidimensionally, and I think Shannon alludes to this in her piece where, you wake up and the first thing you do is you may check your email on your phone, and then, you'll listen to the news on TV when you're having breakfast, and, maybe you'll visit Facebook on your tablet before you leave the house, and then you're on your phone on the subway. So
So ultimately, we do want this exposure, and a lot of times people will see your hotel. So mobile bookings are generally shorter and book closer to stay date than traditional bookings. So you knew that, but let's break it down a little further. So mobile phones bookings are generally shorter length of stay and booking window than tablet. The tablet generally resembles more of the traditional PC booking. We see about the same length of stay for travel or tablet bookings compared with the general non-mobile standalone hotel bookings, and a longer booking window in non-mobile bookings. Going down to the next section here, the mobile category, in other words, mobile phone and tablet together, the booking window is growing year over year. More and more customers are getting used to booking on their phones and tablets. It's becoming more mainstream. So it's just not a last-minute channel for those who are stranded at the airport who missed their flight. All right, people are getting more comfortable transacting on their phone. The experience is getting better. So it's becoming a little bit more mainstream and less of a last resort and more of a part of the normal shopping and booking pattern. So not in this slide, but I thought I'd throw an extra stat in here for you guys. The lower star rated hotels have a higher mobile phone purchase share. So for 1-star properties, 12.2% are booked on a mobile phone, not including tablet. And that progressively lessens through 5-star properties at 7%. So if you have a limited service hotel, that channel is even more important for you. So what do you do with all the information that I just presented to you, in specific, some of the characteristics of the booking? You really want to make it work for you in your distribution strategy. So use it as a tool in your toolbox to play the booking curve that fits your strategy. Mobile bookings are shorter, and that can help you fill a need. So your strategy may also call for medium and long-term long booking window channels. So, my point here is don't be a victim. Use these channels strategically. With Expedia, you can choose fenced mobile-only promotions to track more bookings if this is a channel that you want to invest more in, and if you want to get more short-term bookings. Another recommendation I'd have is, especially if you're an OTA partner, is communicate your goals to your market manager so that they can ensure that your hotel is best positioned to attract customers when you need the business. So additionally, meet with these guys face-to-face. They can tell you exactly what the booking window patterns are for your market and hotel specifically. And these reports that they can generate for you will also tell you if your tactics you put in place to attract customers in certain booking windows are actually working. So it's setting a strategy, it's tracking that strategy, and then refining it as we go. So this slide I love because it really addresses the concern that you guys said earlier in the poll, which is so how do you make yourself available on mobile if you don't have development resources to dedicate to this, to building a brand internationally and making sure that that you have a really robust presence on your own? Well, you partner well. So Expedia's got over 125 million downloads of its apps, more than 140 mobile websites in nearly 70 countries and 35 languages. So we talked about the importance of international. You get this automatically by partnering with us. And again, you only pay if we generate a download for you. So in those scenarios where somebody is just looking around on their phone and they want to find where they want to stay, planning their trip, not necessarily booking at that point, that exposure that we provide for you automatically, you don't pay for unless we generate a booking, and a lot of those guys will end up booking first party. So your partnership with us gives you exposure with all sorts of brands on mobile, but also in general around the world automatically. So I'll end on that note and encourage you to partner with us if you haven't, and if you do partner with us currently, please do reach out to your market manager. And excuse me?
No, I have control back, Adam.
Okay. And now and reach out to your market manager, and they'll help you set a strategy, guys. So thank you very much for your time, and let me know. You guys are very welcome to follow up with me directly if you have any questions.
Great. Thanks, Adam. So just to recap what Adam was telling us, how consumers are accessing your hotel online is changing really, really fast. Mobile is here, and you can't afford not to have a strategy in place, no matter how basic. And that's one of the things we hear from hoteliers all the time is, and in fact, you guys said that to us in the poll at the beginning, I don't know where to start. there are some basic ways of getting into it. Adam pointed out a couple. There's lots of guidance out there on how to get started, but it's really, really important that you actually do get started. We're hearing a lot about the multi-screen behavior of consumers, so it's critical to make sure that whatever device they're using during their hotel shopping journey, that your hotel, your property is presented in the best possible way, because it's just too darn easy for them to swipe you off that consideration list. And consumers continue to research their abundant choice of hotel options on a variety of channels. So make sure you're where they're shopping so that as they're making their short list of possibilities, your property is staying front and center, making it eligible for that final decision when it comes time for them to book. So again, thank you very much, Adam, for sharing your thoughts with us. I know the audience, based on the questions coming in, were very, very helpful. So now I'm going to reintroduce Shannon Praddock, and I'm going to give Shannon the mouse and keyboard. So Shannon, take it away from here.
All righty. Well, hello, everyone. We've had some great feedback already from Adam. Thanks, Adam, for all of that great information. And we're going to talk a little bit actually about a particular property that I work with called the Jupiter Hotel, and it's located in Portland, Oregon. And this property definitely talks, and we've got a little bit of reference here. Darlene, maybe we can have you do the slides.
Sure, absolutely.
It's not responding to me. There we go. There's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
There's my property, Jupiter Hotel in Portland, Oregon. This is a really fun property. We talked a little bit during that poll earlier today about not having enough staff resources. And this is an 81-room property. And we've got an AGM and a GM, and we've got 2 people on the sales staff, and then there's me that helps them out. So not a lot of staff, but we have a lot of resources that we have kind of pulled together and to make this work for us. So.
And Shannon, one of the things I know you're going to share with the audience later, you are a small property. I know there's a lot of smaller properties listening today with limited resources, and you have a lot of very specific guidance for how to sort of build how to handle a big project with a small amount of folks. So we're looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, Darlene and I are going to have a lot of fun with you guys, because Darlene and I like to talk back and forth a little bit. And
it's like a radio show.
It really is. And we're going to have fun with this. And really, you're absolutely right today, Darlene. My goal today is just to share a combination of best practices and tactics that we use with the Jupiter Hotel to optimize our mobile site, but also push traffic to it. And so the first one we're going to talk about is scheduling delivery, our timing. So here's a couple of statistics that I really love that really kind of resonate with me when working with the Jupiter. The first one is that 4 out of 5 smartphone users check their phones within the first 15 minutes of waking up.
That's
I'll be honest,
crazy.
I know, isn't it? And I'm going to put myself into that bucket because, and probably
yeah,
a lot of
I'm
you
there
out there
too.
can say the same. I know, right? You reach over and it's like, what's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then, here's another one. 79% of smartphone users have their phone on or near them for all but 2 hours of their waking day.
Unbelievable.
So, right?
Yeah, right.
And
we said the other day, we're not going to speculate what they're doing when they're not using their smartphone during those other 2 hours.
2 hours,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And then the last statistics I'm going to throw at you is that Friday through Sunday, smartphone users spend 163 minutes communicating and using social media on their phones versus Monday through Thursday, about 87 minutes. My point with these is that a lot of times, especially with smaller properties or if you have limited staff, we all tend to want to post and schedule some of our content when we're working, but not necessarily when your audience and your guests like to receive that communication, whether it's at the first thing in the morning or on that Friday through Sunday. And so when I'm talking about the Jupiter in particular, what we do is we often schedule our content and our releases based around when our guests traditionally are on their smartphones. And that way we know that we're driving traffic to our mobile site at the best time possible.
Hey, Shannon, here's a question from Laura in the audience. She's asking, how do you manage that logistically?
Well, we tend to use a lot of different programs to do that. One I might suggest to you is Hootsuite. It's rather inexpensive. You can manage a lot of your different social channels through it, and you can schedule it. Now, certainly some of the time, jumping onto your social channels and seeing what your guests and your consumers and the audience in general in your market are talking about, yeah, you want to make it super timely. But other times, the reality of it is we just don't have a lot of time to be constantly on these channels. And so scheduling that is really important.
And Toby in the audience is saying, what was the name of that program again? Hootsuite?
Yeah, Hoot, like as an owl, and Suite as in a guest suite. So
okay, and we'll text that to Toby through the chat box so that he knows specifically the name. Yeah.
There you go. And even on your Facebook fan page, there is a scheduling option, so just keep that in the back of your mind. But ultimately, we want to push people to our sites, whether they're on their desktop or on their mobile phone. And certainly we tend to post, as far as the Jupiter goes, information mostly in the morning, and that's going to be informational. In the late afternoon, when people are kind of anxious to leave work, we like to do something a little bit more fun and engaging. And then lastly, in the evening, something viral, fun, or time-sensitive, we put that in the evening when people tend to be surfing right after dinner. So just something there. Basically, my takeaway for that first slide is to push traffic to your site and post social content when your users are most likely to be online. And now we're going to move on to the next one, number 2, which Darlene is already on, and you guys are looking at it. So we're going to write content for our fans and for the media. Now here's why. We're talking about your talking points, and this is also very relevant for all of your sites. But today we're talking about mobile, and Leonardo has a great backend for you to log in. And you can really adjust all of the descriptions and all of the content there that your guests and consumers are seeing when they log on to your mobile site. And so certainly as far as Jupiter goes, we want to make sure that our fan base is looking at content that they want to see. So sometimes we'll look back through our Facebook stats and see what posts have the highest level of engagement. We want to make sure that the photos and the content on there really reflect what they're interested in. Other places that we look to make sure that we're staying on top of what they're interested in, because we can't always assume that we know what they want, is online reviews, survey comments, in-room comment cards, and our front desk. Our front desk staff are invaluable for that kind of insight to what our consumers are interested in. Darlene and I were also talking about, though, the other day, that we tend to also write not just for our consumer, but also media, because our media coverage is absolutely invaluable. We definitely want to make sure that when media are looking at our sites, that we're thinking about them too. So certainly putting content on your mobile site that is based around things that are on trend for your market. For Portland, it's all about food trucks and beer and spirits and the culinary scene and the outdoors, all that stuff we want to make sure that we have on our socials, on our mobile site. We also mirror our local and regional CVB's initiatives. They have the money and the power to get that message out there, and that's their job. And so we need to make sure that our mobile site also reflects that same thing that people are listening and hearing about.
So Sam in the audience,
Sure.
Shannon wants to know, can you elaborate a little more on what you do with this CVB?
Well, goodness, they're a great partner, and that's a good question, and we do a lot with them. Our relationship with our CVB is really close, and that's an important one. Certainly if you, and there's a lot of different departments. Our CVB, we're kind of lucky. Portland has one of the largest ones in the nation with over 50 staff, and that's just our Portland CVB. We also have an amazing tourism commission. My suggestion is to you is just to make sure that you know everybody on staff and see what they're talking about. They're very open, at least ours is. We're lucky, and we know what their marketing initiatives are, what they're doing all the time, when they're going out into the world to spread the news and gospel on how awesome Portland is. And so just getting to know them and what's going on in their world is just a great first step in through the door.
Great.
Lastly, I just always make sure that we include topics that have been recently covered by the Jupiter in our messaging as well. So not necessarily what is on trend all the time, but also making sure that the photography and our messaging on our mobile site also covers what the media is currently writing us about. So basically my key takeaway for number 2 is making sure all the content reflects the needs and interests of both your consumer as well as the media. Now, Darlene has jumped ahead of me, and we've on number 3 now, invest in great photography. And this is a huge one. Darlene and I were chatting about this the other day, right?
Yes. It's all about the visuals. You know, an interesting stat that I often use is that your brain processes imagery 60,000 times faster than words.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. So in particular, in hospitality, we have so much great imagery, and whether that's a photo or video or a virtual tour, you can really get your story across when you use that kind of media, supplemented by text and, you know, copy, but, you know, it's all about the visuals.
Absolutely, and it really is. It's amazing, and you know, one of the key words in the title of this presentation is storytelling. And certainly photography does that. It tells a story, it engages your audience, it speaks to their wants and needs, it supports your messages and keeps your audience engaged online longer, and also helps with your conversion rates. It really hits that home with them emotionally. And for the hotel, we create an annual budget for our photography needs, and we base them off of a number of topics. I always want updated room shots. Number 2, I want to make sure my common areas are on there. They're beautiful, they photograph well. 3, meeting spaces. That's a big one for us. We've got some amazing event spaces, and I want to make sure they're on there. But also consumer interest and culture shops. I want to make sure that I've got the type of people that come and hang out at our hotel are visualized really well within that photography. I also need some images to support our packages because our packages are really cool. They're Portland experiences. And I want them to also support our key talking points. But here's the thing. Sometimes photography, and really great photography, is expensive. And we don't always have a budget for that. And so here's my insider tip for that. We team with people, local photographers. And that's been an amazing partnership that we've created with a number of different professionals in the area. We offer our spaces and amenities. We do collaborative marketing projects together. In exchange for that, we have rights and use of the photos. So don't let budget really hold you back on that, because we really have found that just offering and putting it out there and seeing what projects the photographers want to do and telling them what your needs are can create really amazing opportunities.
And Shannon, Michelle in the audience is asking, what about using a combination of photography that comes from your guests in conjunction with the professional photography? How do you should you use both, and how do you balance that?
You know, I mean, especially if you have a property that is really allows for the creative community to come on board, just like ours does, it offers up really fantastic opportunities for people to submit. And certainly that in of itself is a fantastic way to engage your guests. You know, you could even create a contest out of that. Certainly, you know, you need to work with your guests in regards to making sure that you have the rights to, you know, reuse their work. But absolutely, if it's in line with what your property is and what you're trying to do, that guest involvement just creates brand loyalty, even more so, and is a fantastic way to get them engaged while they're there on site.
I think it also adds a level of authenticity to the hotel as well. So, you know,
yeah, it's from their
I've heard
perspective.
people. Yeah, right. And I've heard people say, well, I'm a little skeptical of, you know, the photos that have been shot professionally. Is that really the way it is? So guest shots support the authenticity, but also show it through the consumer's eyes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's a great way to get engaged. So
Yeah.
basically that takeaway was be creative and tell your story through the photography, but don't let your budget and resources be an excuse to have poor imagery on your mobile site. So there's my lecture for the day. Number 4, though, is we're going to customize your Leonardo tabs and content. Yeah, there is a default setting to it, and that works great. But you know what? You can actually customize so much within this site, and it makes a lot of fun. We like to make sure that, you know, and it might seem a little straightforward. It may be even easy to overlook. But basically what I want you to do here is schedule some time in your super busy calendars, say maybe once a quarter, and make sure that everything in your Leonardo site is up to date. The tabs and descriptions throughout your Leonardo mobile site can be adjusted to mirror the messaging you use on your social channels, your collateral, and more. And really making sure that these same talking points that we're chatting about from your fans, media, and everything else, even in your sales kit and promotional materials are included. We don't want to leave anything out. Really consistency in messaging is key here, being comprehensive on your mobile site. I know you have a lot to dig into. You've got your third-party sites and your reservations and everything else to handle, but once a quarter at the very least, let's jump into those sites and make sure that they're working right. And another great one that we do is we sit down sometimes with our sales and events team as well as our front desk agents and just make sure that there's no stone left unturned. Maybe they have a new idea in the mix or some feedback from the guests that seems to be recurring. We want that stuff in there too. So
great idea.
Yeah, you know, and as an example from the Jupiter, our sales and operations team meets weekly, and part of our discussions cover what we're working on for marketing and PR. Yes, it's sales and operations, but you know what? It's important for us to talk about it from my side too. So each person at the table brings a different perspective and background and experience and expertise to the project in their own voice. We always share our projects across the board, and it's a team expectation to support each other. So if there isn't any questions there, basically my key takeaway is that we just to use Leonardo's tools to customize your mobile site to mirror your marketing messages and schedule time to update the site at least once per quarter. Next one. We've got, let's see, oh yes, digital marketing a priority. Well, I think everybody can say yes. We like to be on our social sites. When I first started working with the Jupiter Hotel, there was a front desk agent who had set up a Facebook fan page. Nobody had access to it. It had 25 fans. They weren't on Twitter. That was about 5 years ago. We haven't since made digital marketing a priority. You know, the reason why I bring this up is that social isn't just about sales before, but also during your guest trip. And, you know, to ensure that your social channels are really helpful in sharing information, your mobile site also has to have the same information, things to do and resources and on-site activities. We don't necessarily want them to be separate because when they're on your social sites, what do? They're interested. They're going to go over to your mobile site. So really, we want to make sure that your mobile site is a resource as well. This helps them with their planning before the trip, during the trip, answer questions. Here's an interesting statistic for you. Travelers are nearly twice more likely to use their smartphones than tablets during the travel. And 85% of American travelers reported using smartphones while during their vacation versus 46% on their tablets. So what does that say to me? That says to me that they're needing a little bit of help while they're out roaming around, and we want them to be really engaged. So yeah, it's important for them to be part of that sales process, but hey, your mobile site can be used while they're there on property. So making sure that you have that content there is a great opportunity for them to continue to stay engaged and know that your property is really helpful all throughout all aspects of the trip.
Hey, Shannon, Spiros in our audience has a great question, one that we get asked a lot. Which of the social media channels do you consider the most important to focus on? The million-dollar question, right?
Right. It really, you know, honestly, Adam, he made a great point earlier. And part of that is it depends upon your property, right? He had mentioned that your one-star property might have a little bit more of that mobile share than maybe your five-star. certainly there is certain social channels that work better for others. For our property, we use a mix of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest mostly, alongside our email communications, which I'm going to touch on here in just a moment. Super important for us. I love our email communications. This summer, we're encouraging engagement by hosting a summer-long sweepstakes series that we launched in April and we're promoting through August. This allows us to capture demographic information, create engagement, push traffic to our site, capture data. There is no right or wrong answer. I think that obviously the basics like Facebook and Twitter are fantastic. If you have a beautiful site and property that is really engaging, places like Instagram and Pinterest are fantastic. Bottom line for me, the answer to that is no matter what platform you're on, do it well and really look for opportunities to engage your people, not just put content out there. So,
excellent advice. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So ensure your templates are responsive. What templates am I talking about? We're talking about email. And you know what? Adam talked about it a little bit earlier, and I'm just going to put that point home. Responsive, what is that? Well, basically, responsive web design is web design that's approached at and aimed at creating and crafting sites that provide an optimal viewing experience. It's easy to read, and your navigation across the board, it just eliminates the need to resize and pan. We've all had those emails where we're right, darling, we're awake at 6 o'clock in the morning and we reach over to our phone and to check our email, and we receive an email that that isn't responsive, and so you're using your fingers to pinch and zoom and try and read all that content. Well, you're making your guests work really hard, and they don't need to. And if your email software program that you're sending out isn't responsive, well, you're not alone. 24% of companies aren't optimizing their email creatives for mobile viewers in any way whatsoever. And in fact, that's an Experian little statistic there. So, but bottom line, nearly a quarter or 23% of campaigns initially open on mobile devices were later open a second time by consumers, 70% on the same device, 30% on a different device. People are looking at your emails. You're sending them out. You're spending the time and the money and the resources to do it. Let's do it right. You know, as far as the hotel goes, we use a combination of Constant Contact and MailChimp for our ESP. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because the point of us putting these emails out is to get them to our site. To get them to convert. We want them to book. We want them to get excited about those packages and the things that we're talking about. But if your email isn't set up for that, you know what? We're losing out there. In fact, 56% of mobile online sales originating from a marketing email take place on an iPad, and revenue per mobile click is almost double that of a desktop click. People are out there and they want to spend their money. Our goal is always to inform, engage, and convert our subscribers. In less than 5 years, we have grown our database to over 50,000 readers who receive our monthly email newsletter for an 81-room hotel. That's not bad. So, any questions about that?
No, I think you make some excellent points. You know, email is not dead clearly, and I think one of my big takeaways about what you said, Shannon, is that email is a very important driver to get people to your website. You know, there's a lot of focus on, you know, gee, how do I get consumers to my site as opposed to all the other websites that are out there for shopping, and email is a critical one. So your points about make sure the email experience is a good one is the foundation.
Absolutely, absolutely, Darlene. Really, it's just being mindful of the technology that you're using to direct traffic to your mobile site and making sure that it works for all platforms. Thanks so much, Darlene. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shannon. So many great questions from the audience. Thank you so much for sharing your very specific guidance. I know we always hear from folks in the audience that that's what they want. They want to leave one of the educational events with some action items that they can actually go do when they're back in their office, and I think you definitely left them with that. Let me just recap what Shannon talked to us about today. You know, don't operate solely on this 9 to 5 mentality, right? Understand who your audience is and then communicate with them on mobile when they're most likely to actually be on the mobile site looking and ready to receive what it is you're offering. The second thing is, expand your marketing to consider sourcing local businesses and CVBs for content. First, it's easier to do, and it's more interesting to your guests. And then lastly, I think my big takeaway was, this creating and implementing a good mobile strategy is doable by everyone. Shannon's hotel, she talked about earlier, is a small independent property, but focusing on a few very targeted action items specifically for their audience has really, really made their mobile strategy successful. And so I know everybody in the audience can do it too. Here is, so let me take one last poll. The audience, I'd like to hear from everybody. Based on today's content, will you attend future webinars? The answer to this question helps us understand whether we're providing content that is important to you and valuable to you, because that's always our goal. And so we like to, as through Adam's presentation, give the folks an overview of the topic from an industry and marketplace perspective, and then always have a hotelier like Shannon Praddock from the Jupiter to really drill down from a property perspective so that you guys can have some really good takeaways. And so thank you for weighing in on the poll. The majority of you have voted, and it looks like by and large everyone says they'll join us again. So thank you for that. We appreciate it, and thanks for weighing in on that. And so just to round off the rest of our discussion today, what I'd like to do is just share a brief word about Leonardo's visual storytelling platform we call Brochure. Shannon alluded to it a couple of times in her presentation. We offer the solution to hotel marketers to help you achieve some key business objectives, which include reaching and engaging consumers while they're shopping, which we know from Adam's presentation is very important, communicating the value that you provide so you just don't sell on price, and then give you an opportunity to really set yourself apart from the competition so that the shopper chooses you with the certainty that it's the right choice for them, because you can do some really impactful visual storytelling, but specifically for mobile, which is included in the bigger Brochure license. We have a smartphone and tablet solution as part of Leonardo's Brochure online merchandising system. And so what that does is it'll help you optimize your hotel website for smaller screens and touch navigation without eliminating the important information and multimedia that consumers are looking for. And then it will detect your website visitor's device and display a website that's actually optimized for that device. Shannon talked about responsive. So that's what this mobile website does, is it knows the consumer is accessing your website from a phone, and it'll present the right form factor for the phone. It knows that the consumer is accessing your hotel website from a tablet and will render the appropriate website to match that tablet. So that's really key. And then ensuring booking your hotel on these mobile devices is as smooth and seamless as it is on a computer screen. So it's important to keep all those things in mind. And you can learn more about it. I'm going to share the contact information of all of our speakers and about Leonardo in just a second. We do have another webinar coming up next month, and the topic is Best Practice Storytelling on Third-Party Travel Channels. And as I said at the beginning of our event today, you'll receive a thank you for joining us email with a link to the recording of the webinar, which you can share or listen to again at your leisure. So any last minute questions coming in. I see tons of people have found the questions dialog box, but here's the Leonardo contact information. Shannon's information is there, as well as Adam from Expedia. So if you'd like to contact any of us, I'll keep this on the screen for the next few minutes. Adam, here's one question for you, and not surprisingly, given all the press. Doug from the audience wants to understand, what do you think the value is in the online travel agency space these days? There seems to be a lot of controversy about whether, the billboard effect is still meaningful. What's your take on that? And I know you may have a little bit of a biased view, but it's a good question, I think.
Yeah, I think that's great, and that actually sounds a little bit like two questions to me, because the first part is, what is the value of an online travel agency? Well, at the end of the day, it's about us delivering demand to our partners, and demand that is complementary to the demand that a hotel can get on their own or through other third-party channels. So, we make tons of investments internationally. We have 150 branded sites around the world, and we made it last year in 2013. We made a $2 billion investment in marketing and sales to build that brand and generate interest for the hotels that are offered through our sites. So, same thing goes for the technology space. We're constantly innovating, constantly adapting to meet consumers where they want to shop. Mobile is a great example of that. We have big investments there, and we do this all on behalf of hotel partners who don't have the resources and the means to do it themselves. If you talk to a lot of the independent hotels, but even branded hotels, they just don't have the exposure and the resources to get that traveler from China, or get that traveler from Brazil, or get both the traveler from China and Brazil, and get them on the mobile. So we make those investments, and then we pass that along to our partners. Only, again, when we make a reservation. So we feel like we're a really valuable channel. We couldn't be happier with the amount of, in general, the value that we offer. I'd say supplementary to that, I think a lot of folks don't realize, is that we have a world-class market management team and great analytics. So the partners who partner with us the partners who are happiest with the partnership are those who generally sit down and meet with us, go over their demand strategy with their market managers, set up something specifically for their needs, test and learn, and we have robust analytics to show them how they're doing. So I'd say that's really helpful. Now, specifically the billboard effect, that is a large part of the value that we offer, but that I wouldn't say is core to it. And for those who don't know what that means, the billboard effect really means that the exposure you get through an OTA channel is more valuable than simply just the bookings that you get. So a lot of folks we know will book directly with the hotel website, but they'll start their search on an OTA. And I can tell you, actually, from some research that we did, that even those travelers who say, I only book with the hotel directly all the time, they still start their search on an OTA more often than they start on the first-party website. So, and that number gets higher as people say, I sometimes or usually book direct or whatever. So the point is that, you saw that slide about the path to purchase. People are all over the place. They are all over the web. They're all over multiple form factors, and really the key is that you want to be visible. You want to be in the consideration set that whole time. And if that results in a booking from an OTA, that's great. If it results from a booking on your own site, that's wonderful too. That we just consider that as part of the value that we offer.
Thanks, Adam. Great insights. Hey, Shannon, Robert in our audience wants to know, so what's the very first step in getting started to have a mobile strategy?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question. Well, I think the very first step is to make sure that you have a mobile site. And obviously, the Jupiter Hotel uses Leonardo. Certainly just implementing some of the things that we talked about today. you know, even with let's just talk about photography and content. Just making sure and doing an audit of that. What resources do you have to make a comprehensive social site? Let's say you have a decent amount of photography, but there's certain aspects of that that are missing, that you know aren't being represented well, or you know that your content was kind of maybe not written that well, and you need to sit down and go over with your team. Bottom line, first and foremost, let's do an audit. Let's really be honest with ourselves as to what you have that's working well and what isn't, and then what's the priority, what's going to fix this, and setting the topmost priority being what's going to convert, what's going to make some sales for you. Making sure that your eye is on the prize, heads and beds, and putting that your resources and your money there first, and then kind of backing it out from there. You know, I'm a big checklist person, and by setting those clear priorities and understanding through that audit of what you have available to you, and that really can kind of help focus in what you have available to you.
Great. Thanks, Shannon. Well, thanks, everyone, for your tremendous questions and for hanging out with us for almost the entire hour, even though we did build this as a 45-minute presentation. But there were so many great questions and so much great insight from Shannon and Adam. Didn't seem right to cut it off. So thank you for hanging with us, and we really appreciate your interest. If you'd like to contact any of us, you have the contact information on the screen. And so today is Thursday, which is the new Friday, which means that this is the start of a long weekend. So anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.